Amidst the laughter and clinking of glasses at the grand feast, gasps echoed as Lord Gregory rose boldly, his voice cutting through the celebration with accusations against Queen Evelyn. Betrayal dripped from every word, freezing the room in stunned silence. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. First, let's go back to the beginning. In the kingdom of Westville, a land blessed with rolling emerald hills and a skyline graced by turrets of ancient castles, the air was electrified with celebration. Under the azure sky, pennants fluttered from every battlement, while a lively mix of laughter and music echoed through the cobblestone streets. It was the eve marking a decade of Queen Evelyn's reign, a decade that had seen the kingdom blossom under her visionary guidance. Queen Evelyn was not just a monarch in title. She embodied the essence of leadership with compassion and intellect. Her coronation had not only symbolized the dawn of a new era, but had set in motion waves of hope that rippled across Westville. People spoke of her with a reverence reserved for legends, recounting tales of her tireless efforts to uplift the downtrodden and her foresight in steering the realm towards prosperity. Since she ascended the throne, Queen Evelyn had dispelled the gloomy economic clouds that once hung over her kingdom. She invested in trade and infrastructure, bringing about a golden age of commerce. Markets once sparse now thrived with vibrant displays of exotic goods, drawing merchants from lands afar. These innovations were not merely financial calculations. They were extensions of her profound love for her people, forged in the fires of youthful ideals imbibed from her wise grandmother, a formidable leader in her own time. Yet, amidst the radiant achievements, shadows had begun to creep through the corridors of the castle. Within the hallowed walls of her court, jealousy festered among those who found their influence waning against Evelyn's rising star. Her success was a mirror casting uncomfortable reflections for those who preferred status quo over progression, aggrieved by Evelyn's disruption of their entrenched privileges. These courtiers, draped in silk and guarded smiles, harbored ambitions masked beneath layers of courtly grace. They whispered among themselves in corners and plotted under the guise of loyalty. Quietly, a coalition of dissent started taking shape. Those who viewed the Queen's changes as threats to their own legacies. Superficially, they toasted to Evelyn's health, but their praise was laced with envious spite and bitter undertones. Despite the burgeoning undercurrents of dissent within her, Evelyn remained blissfully unaware. She, who was so attuned to the hearts of her subjects, had yet to see the seeds of betrayal sprouting in her own garden. Her trustful nature drove her ignorance. An intrinsic belief that the well-being of the kingdom was a shared objective made her blind to the masks of duplicity worn by those she trusted. To the kingdom, Evelyn's visage was one of serene strength, a lighthouse amid turbulent seas. But beneath the surface, the kingdom was on the precipice of turbulence, a storm brewing silently, poised to test the very foundations of her reign. Yet on this day of jubilation, none predicted the turbulence that lay ahead. For now, Westville thrived in the warmth of its queen's dream, a radiant vision of unity and progress that was worthy of celebration. In the heart of the grand and sprawling Westville castle, whispers filled the corridors like a rising tide. The opulent halls, shadowed by centuries-old tapestries and portraits of past monarchs, now bore witness to the growing intrigue orchestrated by Lord Gregory. As a trusted advisor to Queen Evelyn, Gregory had long enjoyed the privileges and influence that came with his position. However, ambition had tainted his loyalty, sowing seeds of doubt in his heart. The Queen's tireless endeavors to implement progressive reforms for her kingdom, a vision instilled by her beloved grandmother, were not seen as paramount virtues by all. To Gregory, they appeared as overreaches of power, or perhaps more insidiously, threats to his own standing within the court. Lord Gregory moved deftly through the palace's political theater, whispering his dissent to those who would listen. His voice was like a silky smoke, curling into the ears of the undecided and the discontented alike. He spun tales of the Queen's alleged over-reliance on certain advisors, and didn't shy away from suggesting that Evelyn's vision for the kingdom lacked foresight. These mutterings, innocuous at first, began to infect the minds of the courtiers. Each seed of doubt sowed was carefully nurtured, bolstered by Gregory's strategic reminders of tradition, stability, and the way things had been done for generations. Despite the brewing tension, Queen Evelyn remained blissfully unaware of the underground currents working against her. Her days were consumed by her genuine passion for governance and her people's welfare. Her office, adorned with maps and papers, was often filled with ministers discussing matters of state. She spent long hours consulting experts about agricultural improvements, trade negotiations, and educational reforms. This dedication left little time for the court's murmurings to reach her ears. The Queen trusted in the sanctity of her court, believing deeply in the foundational values of loyalty and integrity. Yet, an undercurrent of unease was beginning to ripple through the castle. People spoke of Lord Gregory's rising discontent in hushed tones behind closed doors. The air was thick with the scent of conspiracy. Oblivious yet undeterred, Queen Evelyn rode through these uncertain times, her heart buoyed by a compelling dream of unity, a dream inspired by her grandmother's teachings. Each day she stood resolute in front of her people, delivering speeches that echoed with resolve and compassion, unaware of the fraying trust within her inner circle. As the shadows of betrayal lengthened, the Queen's fortitude shone brighter, her leadership unyielding. Her warmth and eloquence held the kingdom's hope like a beacon in darkening times. But within those stony walls, the specter of treachery loomed ever larger, inching its way closer to the heart of power. A sinister confluence that neither the Queen nor her loyal subjects could yet perceive. The tension mounted with every conspiratorial glance, poised to uncork at the unlikeliest of moments, where motives and allegiances would clash in the halls she called home. The grand banquet hall of Westville Castle was adorned with shimmering tapestries and twinkling chandeliers, the air thick with the aroma of delicate roasts and potent wines. It was a night of celebration, meant to honor the long reign of Queen Evelyn. Courtiers mingled in their finest silks and velvets, their laughter mingling with the soft strains of a quartet serenading the room. But underneath the outward display of mirth lay a tension that subtly rippled through the crowd, like the dark undercurrent of a seemingly tranquil river. Few noticed how Lord Gregory moved among the guests, his demeanor as polished as ever, yet his eyes flickered with a dangerous zeal. For months he had worked quietly, weaving a web of dissent around the Queen. His dissatisfaction with her policies, once a private bitterness, had evolved into a crusade, masked with a veneer of loyalty even as he undermined her rule. Tonight, his machinations were set to culminate in a public confrontation that would shake the foundation of the realm. As the evening unfolded, Queen Evelyn stood at the head of the table, raising her glass to toast the prosperity she had tirelessly worked to sow within her kingdom. Her face radiated warmth and strength, her presence commanding respect and admiration. But as she surveyed her guests with a benevolent smile, Gregory seized the moment, stepping forward with an audacity that silenced the room. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice polished yet laced with an undercurrent of accusation, "while we gather here in gratitude for your leadership, it is imperative we don't blind ourselves to the truths that lie beneath our gilded exterior." A collective gasp swept through the hall, eyes darting between Queen Evelyn and the defiant lord, uncertainty churning like a storm. The Queen's calm facade faltered for a heartbeat, but her steel-gray eyes soon narrowed, seeking to understand the full extent of Gregory's intentions. Her lips pursed in a tight line, yet she held her tongue, permitting him the floor, at least for the moment. Your policies, Gregory continued, promised prosperity, yet I question at what cost they serve the kingdom's future. Are we intoxicated by temporary gains, all designed to cement your legacy, whilst the needs of our people are sacrificed at the altar of vanity? His words cut the air with sharp precision, sowing seeds of doubt amongst those gathered. A murmur of discontent bubbled low among the courtiers, their gazes shifting, as if considering the merit in Gregory's audacity. The queen, unmoved outwardly, felt the sting of betrayal deeply, her heart aching at the thought that her genuine devotion to Westville had been so grievously misread. Yet amidst the tempest building around her, an unexpected calm settled within Evelyn. She scrutinized Gregory and the conspirators who aligned with him not as enemies outright, but as challengers to the vision she had for her kingdom. An epiphany unfolded in her mind, a realization that the discord could be harnessed not as a force for division, but as an impetus for showcasing the strength of her resolve. Silence wrapped the room in anticipation, the court awaiting her response. Queen Evelyn, drawing upon the reservoir of wisdom accumulated through years of rulership, chose this moment of vulnerability as one to demonstrate unparalleled grace and fortitude. Inwardly, she resolved to transform this confrontation into an opportunity for profound reaffirmation of her values, those of unity, prosperity, and an unyielding dedication to the welfare of her people above all else. Queen Evelyn stood at the heart of the great hall, her regal presence illuminating the tension that clung thickly in the air like an unwelcome fog. Around her, the whispers of betrayal and dissent wove an intricate tapestry of doubt among the courtiers, each murmur a needlepoint of treachery aimed at unraveling the very fabric of her reign. Lord Gregory's accusations had cast a long shadow, one heavy with the weight of deception, attempting to obscure the light of her accomplishments and relegate her leadership to spectrums of speculation and scandal. Yet, amid this brewing storm, Queen Evelyn embodied the epitome of serenity and fortitude. Her eyes, sharp and resolute, surveyed the court, a congregation of her most trusted and those newly suspect. As silence enveloped the room, she began to speak, her voice resonating with an unshakable dignity that commanded attention. With every word, she deftly dismantled each accusation with clarity and grace, weaving her responses into a narrative of truth and transparency. "My dear subjects," she began, her tone resonant and clear, like a bell tolling the promise of morning after a long night. "I have heard your grievances, and I stand here not as a distant ruler, but as one of you, bound by the same dedication to this realm and to the lives we've pledged to enrich together." Her words, carefully articulated, resonated through the hall, quieting the uncertainty that had taken root, allowing reason to seep through like sunlight piercing a dissipating mist. Artfully, she addressed each accusation with keen insight, her intellect cutting through falsehood like a blade through the frail string of a lie. The court watched in rapt attention as the power of her conviction unfurled, giving way to awe rather than animosity. She had mapped new strategies, plans that not only acknowledged the court's concerns but also ventured beyond, promising a future vibrant and inclusive, a testament to her vision that had nurtured the kingdom into prosperity. It was a moment of revelation not just for the kingdom, but for Evelyn herself. This challenge, wrought by betrayal, became a crucible through which she emerged not merely unscathed but burnished, her stature elevated, her commitment reforged in the fires of adversity. Her ability to transform discord into discussion, division into unity, left an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of her people. The hall erupted in applause, a collective exhalation of breath held too long, the sound of faith restored, trust regained. In that moment, the true essence of her leadership shone with undeniable clarity. She was not simply Queen Evelyn, ruler by right, but Evelyn, the beacon of her people's hopes and aspirations, a monarch whose legacy would be inscribed with the ink of resilience and wisdom. As the applause thundered against the ancient stone walls, Evelyn stood serene, unbowed by the trials she had overcome. She had not just weathered a storm, she had harnessed it, reshaping it into a force for renewal. And in doing so, she once again carved her place, not just on the throne, but in the hearts of those she was destined to lead.